Well, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. My name is Jesse, and I am your virtual adventure guide here with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. If you're joining us for the first time today, and I know we've got a big new audience today, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world through like a gazillion live free interactive broadcasts. We do 40 plus programs every single month featuring some of the coolest scientists and explorers on this planet, showcasing some of the most amazing places that you can find around the world, really. And so I'm so excited you guys are joining us as we continue to showcase and celebrate such amazing people and places. Now, today we've got a person who really epitomizes everything that we like to showcase here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, Mariah Wilson. So she has traveled to almost 100 countries. She's been to 6 continents, and she is a wildlife and documentary filmmaker whose work has been featured by PBS, National Geographic, the Discovery Channel, and so many more of the world's top outlets. Today, where I am looking out my window and seeing the biggest snowflakes I've ever seen in my life. They're like as big as my head. We are going to go live with Mariah to talk about some of her amazing work in some of the more tropical and unique places on this planet. I'm so excited for you guys to meet her, hear about some of her incredible stories that she's gotten up to over the last few years. And so, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mariah to blow all our minds over the next 20 minutes. Mariah, welcome into the broadcast, and thanks for joining us for the first time today. This is so nice.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. It's my pleasure.
I know you've got a bunch of stories to share, so if you want to dive right in with your presentation, we'd love to have you bring that up. I'll note too while you're doing that if our folks are on YouTube, you guys can let us know where you're joining from in the chat. We'd love to hear from you there. And without further ado, I'll turn it straight over to you. Thank you so much.
All righty, here we go. So, hello, my name is Mariah. I make documentary films and TV. Over the years, I filmed all kinds of stories, from history to cultural stories to travel series. But my favorite kind of story to tell is about wildlife and the people helping to study and protect animals all around the world. So this picture here is me sitting in a muddy clearing in Central Africa, getting a little sun, just relaxing in my waders. Elephants actually regularly drink from this water that I'm sitting in, but luckily not at the same moment that I was there. So one of my most recent projects is a film about forest elephants. Now, forest elephants are a species in Africa that is slightly smaller than the more well-known savanna elephants, which are the ones that are like out on the open plains that are the more iconic African elephant. But forest elephants, they're the underdog, and they're my favorite. They live in the dense jungles of Central Africa, and they're known as a keystone species, which means they have a really big impact on the ecosystem around them. For instance, elephants are known for eating plants in one place, and they eat the seeds of the plants, and they walk a bunch of miles. And of course, they have to poop sometimes. So they will poop these seeds out into another place, which helps to transport the seeds elsewhere in the forest, and it helps to germinate them. It helps to make them grow. So I call the picture to the right elephant poop trees. They're little baby trees. And so these guys are really like the gardeners of the forest. They help to build the ecosystem that they live in. They are awesome. Now, here you see Clement, and he's a biologist in Congo, Brazzaville, and that's his team down there with him on the right. And frankly, sometimes getting the places that we need to shoot is a real challenge. And so on the picture on the left, you see our car, and there was a giant log in the way as we were driving out. So Clement's team had to take a machete and hack their way through that log in order to get it out of the way. So they had a chain on the car, which I think you can kind of see around the trunk of the tree, and the car had to back up and pull that huge tree out of the way so we could make our way forward. So, it's good to have a few extra tools on hand, like a machete or like an axe, when you're trying to get to clearings with elephants in the jungle. So eventually, we did actually make it to these clearings. And then once we got there, we had to climb up this observation deck you see on the right. It was about 30 feet tall. And this is where Clement will sit and observe and film and photograph the elephants. And this way, it's kind of like it's a safe place for him, because the elephants can feel a little threatened if you have a human being on the same level as them. And so he can also sleep up there at night and observe the elephants at nighttime. But that platform on the top, was only about 10 feet by 10 feet, and there were 4 of us up there. So we had to kind of squeeze in and adjust our sleeping bags to fit in at various angles. So it was a bit of a squeeze. I called it sleepover Tetris because we had to kind of find funny angles to sleep at. But we all managed to get up there with our camera gear as well. And you can see here I am with some of the camera gear, just sitting and waiting and actually doing a crossword at this moment. I just realized you could see my crossword puzzle there as I wait for the elephants to emerge. And on the left, you can see me with my waders and this wooden bridge that was kind of put together by Clement and his team to get out to the clearings. And, you know, we had to actually wait quite a long time to see elephants. They're very shy, these guys. They have sadly, a lot of poaching pressure. And so they're a little bit scared to come out into the clearings. So sometimes I would get a little bored, and you can see in this video, my cameraman Zeb was trying to set up a shot, and I was busy brushing my teeth, and I decided to just get a little goofy. And so this is a slider shot that he's doing here, and I decided to just, you know, give him a little entertainment and kind of mimic what the camera was doing. You spend enough time in a jungle, you get a little weird, guys. I'll be honest with you. So finally, it took a long time, but we did see these wonderful elephants, and they only came out for us at nighttime. So luckily we had infrared cameras, so infrared is a type of light that our eyes cannot see, but the camera can see it. So if you were to turn on an infrared light, you wouldn't even notice a difference. But these cameras were able to pick up the elephants with the infrared light. Infrared light basically shows us how hot things are. So by recording these heat waves that bodies give off, that's how they record images. So we were able to get these beautiful scenes of elephants in the clearings with infrared cameras. And we even saw a little baby elephant that was suckling on its mother. So that was a very special moment for all of us, for our whole team, and for Clement, the biologist, too. So even though I'm done with this film about forest elephants, Clement still sends me these wonderful images from camera traps that he sets up around his clearings, which are these cameras you can set up and leave running, and they're triggered by motion. So when the elephants are, for instance, drinking water in the river, or if other animals cross in front of the camera path, the camera will turn on and take either still photos or video, depending on the settings that are used. So camera traps are really useful for wildlife films, and they can help filmmakers to capture images of shy or kind of hard to see animals. So Clement wasn't the only person we filmed with for this film. We also filmed with this woman, Sidonie. She is an eco guard, and she is a very tough lady working in these crazy forest environments and basically patrolling to check for poachers who are trying to hunt and kill animals that they shouldn't. And her job is to protect them. So she and the other eco guards that you see in the picture on the left are patrolling the forest every single day to make sure there's no illegal hunters killing protected species like the elephants. And we also filmed with this guy, Arthur. He's from the Czech Republic, and he moved to Congo Brazzaville to start a sniffer dog program. The sniffer dogs, as you can see in the picture on the right, go into vehicles, and they have like different checkpoints set up at traffic stops to check for illegal contraband like ivory and bushmeat and animals that, you know, shouldn't be taken out of the forest. So he has this great team of dogs and dog handlers that you can see in the photo on the left, and they are deployed at different checkpoints around Congo Brazzaville. And right now they're actually, I believe, working in a chimpanzee reserve that is run by Jane Goodall's group. So they're doing some really great work there. So elephants aren't the only thing I've been filming recently. I actually also worked on a project about dolphins earlier this year called Caught. But I have to admit, it was a bit of a sad subject. It's about dolphin bycatch, which is something that happens when big fishing ships throw out huge nets and they catch all kinds of marine life, not just the fish they're trying to get. So sadly, sometimes dolphins get caught in these nets and they die. So the main thing I learned from making this film and doing this shoot was to kind of carefully consider the choices I make when I'm eating, since overfishing and marine life bycatch are really major problems. So I now actually no longer eat fish, and that was something that I arrived at in the making of this film and being part of the team that was making this film. But in happier news, part of making this film was to get footage of dolphins doing their thing and being happy and living and healthy in big groups. So we went to Egypt in the Red Sea, and there's this reef known as the Dolphin House. It's called Sataya Reef. And this was amazing. I've never seen so many dolphins in my life. There was just pods and pods of mostly spinner dolphins, but there were some bottlenose dolphins as well. And they were all around us, very curious. We weren't supposed to touch them, but they would come right up to us. And they were just very engaged with the whole filming process and curious about what our camera was doing. So here is a little video that we got of the dolphins swimming all around us. And here's a fun fact I learned while filming there. Dolphins sleep with half of their brain at a time. So they even continue to swim while they're sleeping, just much more slowly. And this was actually the best time for us to film them because we could keep up with them. Because you can imagine our cameraman who's filming this has these long fins and he's trying his best to swim and keep up with the dolphins, but they can be very fast. So, and that's a little jellyfish that you see there. They actually eat them and also play with them almost like a ball. So it is, it's a real challenge to film dolphins when they're fully awake and active. But if you get them while they're a little bit sleepy, much, much easier. Okay, just a warning, this next slide about my other project's a little bit sad. So, if I can get to my next slide. Okay, there it is. So, all right. So this is a bear in Armenia. His name is Nelson. And I did a film called Rescuing Armenia's Bears. It's a short film, and it's about bears in captivity in Armenia, which is located in Central Asia. And they're usually in really bad conditions in very small cages, as you can see in this picture. And this particular bear, Nelson, is actually blind and receives no medical care. It's really sad. I actually was very, very emotional after I saw this. The night when we returned to the hotel after filming this, I had to have a little cry. But the good news is there is someone in Armenia, his name is Ruben, and he has a great conservation group, and they rescue bears like Nelson who are in not so great conditions in captivity. As you can see on the left here, we have two bears who have been rescued from small cages. They now have this large enclosure. They receive medical care. They receive a proper diet. And they can enjoy delicious things like melons. And I will go ahead and play this video here. And these little babies have been rescued, and they are just chomping away at melons, and they're so happy. And that's their mom there too. So they go from a bad situation to a much better situation at this sanctuary. And it's places like these that give me hope, you know. And it's not just eating melons. A couple of these bears enjoy a swimming pool in their enclosure as well in the summer months, splashing around and just being bears, just having the opportunity to have normal bear behavior and not be locked in a small cage. It's really lovely to see, and they're quite goofy. And then my last story here is this man is named Iman, and he is one of the veterinarians who worked with the bears at the sanctuary that you just saw to make sure that they're in the best possible shape. And he actually does dental procedures with these bears because their teeth are oftentimes not in good shape because they've eaten a bad diet for so many years. And this picture kind of captures one of my favorite things about my work, which is meeting the people who want to help animals. And I get to tell their stories and celebrate all their hard work. But honestly, the bears splashing around in pools is pretty cool also. So thank you very much.
You very much, Mariah. That was spectacular. What a variety of stories. And I love the emphasis that you always put on all the people that you worked with, the biologists, the filmmakers, the people working to conserve species or save individual animals. It's something that I've started to see more and more as we bring on people for broadcasts that get the chance to work in a diversity of places and environments around the globe. And I think it's really a really important thing for people to take the opportunity to look those people up, see what they're doing, get involved, help the amazing work they're doing. So kudos to you. We're going to dive in with Q&A. We've got a bunch of groups on YouTube. Miss Mercier's class, they couldn't get in on StreamYard, but they've got it going on YouTube, which is spectacular. Miss Picasino, I'll come to you guys in a second as well. But I'm going to ask a question that we get every single one of our broadcasts. And that is, are there dangers that you face when you're out? I mean, is there anything scary or something that you have to prepare for, or any, potentially hazardous situations that you find yourself in when you're in these, particularly unique places?
Yeah. Wow. Good question. There certainly are dangers. Like when I was out with Sidonie, who's the eco guard, and I was, walking with her and these other eco guards in the forest. And of course, they're looking for poachers. And if they find poachers, there's going to be a confrontation. So there's inherent dangers in being out with people who are on the front lines of conservation. But I always emphasize that the bigger dangers are for them because they do this work every day. As a filmmaker, I come in for a couple of days or maybe a week or two. But for me, I also have like certain amounts of protection from like having different forms of health insurance, medical insurance, evacuation insurance, certain precautions that you take as a filmmaker that if you do arrive in a bad scenario, you can kind of get out of the country or extricate yourself. So yeah, I mean, there are definitely some hairy moments, but so far so good.
We hope it keeps up that way for many years to come. Just a quick note too, I know if you've got screen share on, if you want to come out of that and see us again, by all means play around with that, but you're
yes.
good with the setup you've got. Miss Picasino's class joining us in Waterloo, Ontario. If you guys want to unmute your mic and come on in for a question, you're good to go. Hey guys.
Hello. We do have a few questions here. Ashton, what's yours?
Do you plan on making any more documentaries?
Are you done, Mariah, or more to come?
More to come for sure. Yeah, I'm working right now on actually a film that's coming out on Amazon later this year. It's going to be on December 30th on Amazon called Wildcat. And it's something, not that I directed, my friends directed it. I was part of the producing team. It's a beautiful story about wildlife rehabilitation in the Peruvian Amazon. And it has to do with ocelots, which are a medium-sized cat, kind of like imagine a leopard, but like shrunk down really small with a bunch of spots. And they're beautiful. And there's a woman in Peru who runs this amazing wildlife rescue group. And so it's following her efforts and this young man trying to rewild orphaned ocelots. So definitely keep an eye out for that one.
How cool is that? I brought up an ocelot picture for everyone so you can see what they look like. But that's a great description, by the way, Mariah. They're such a beautiful, beautiful cat. I'm excited. Okay, I know what I'm watching on the 30th. Let's head to our YouTube group. It's Mercier's class. What's your favorite animal you've gotten to film? No pressure at all.
Oh, I don't know. I'm really partial to those elephants because it was so hard to film them. We spent so much time trying to find them that once we finally did, that moment of seeing them with the infrared camera at nighttime was so special that, yeah, I gotta say the elephants for now. But hey, that could change with any other project. And I have yet to film an animal I don't love, put it that way.
A follow-up to this, and by the way, the elephant thing's really interesting. Whenever we have people that have a variety of animals that they do, elephant seems to be one of the most common best picks. They're so interesting, they're so intelligent, they're so magnificent. I mean, they're the largest land animal, so they tend to be a top pick for a lot of filmmakers around the globe.
Yeah.
Is there a creature or place you particularly like to film that you haven't been yet, or many? Just inundate us.
Yeah, let me see. Okay, so on the docket of places I would love to go and film, Southeast Asia has some really interesting bear species. The sun and the moon bear, which is smaller bear species, and I know of a really good wildlife rescue group there that I would love to visit and kind of film what they're doing with rehabilitation. The slide right at the end of my presentation, there was the veterinarian who helps the bears in Armenia. He does amazing work with big cats all over the world. And he actually works with Persian leopards a lot, and he helped to amputate the leg of a Persian leopard that was caught in a trap, and he was like really hurt, but he helped to do the surgery, so the cat's much better now. My filmmaking partner and I are really keen on trying to follow some more of his work because he's always up to something crazy and amazing.
For what it's worth for our students, I'm trying to get him, literally, we've been emailing today to try and get him on the broadcast too. So we're going to find out if we can get Ruben on in the not too distant future for you guys as a follow-up to this. You mentioned the sun bear, and I can't resist. I shared the ocelot picture. The sun bear looks like a fake bear. Like if you ran into it, you'd be like, is this a real animal? So they got this weird thing in their chest going on. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, they got that little golden swoop, and the moon bear has a golden swoop too. They're so different looking from like the grizzlies and the brown bears and the black bears that you see in like North America. It's really fascinating.
Very, very cool. Miss Picasino's class, if you guys want to come back in for another one live, again, YouTube groups, don't be shy. I know if you don't have a YouTube account, it's hard to share questions there, but if you do want to share, by all means, get those in or email them to us. Miss Picasino, though, come on back in.
Okay, we have another question here.
Hey.
Do you miss any of the animals you've met?
Oh, great question.
It's all of them. That's such a good question. Oh my gosh. I miss being in the reef with all the dolphins swimming around. That was a very special experience because they were just so close to us, and they'd come right up to us, and kind of you almost could dance with them in a way, because I would twirl around and they would twirl around me, and we were just like making eye contact and just kind of checking each other out like, what's your deal? So, but yeah, there's no animal I filmed with that I don't miss and who I wouldn't absolutely love to see again.
A great follow-up question to this we just got on YouTube, and it's, do the animals have names? Whether they're at the veterinary center, whether animals like an elephant that you're encountering and you can sort of identify them individually, do you name them? Are they numbered? Do you not care? What's the deal?
Good question. So case by case, like with Clement, who studies the elephants in the clearings, they don't have names. He could probably identify different groups that he sees on the camera traps all the time or from his observation tower, but it would be probably more of a numbering system, like, okay, that's, elephant group 323 or something like that. But in the wildlife rescue and rehabilitation centers, they usually are named. And certainly like for the wildcat film that's coming up, the main cat's name there is actually Keanu. And so he has a big, personality, no pun intended, personality. Sorry, that's terrible. But yeah, so the rescue and rehab animals tend to have names, but the ones that you observe in the wild tend to be more numbered or just straight up observations. Yeah.
It's been interesting. We've gotten this question like 3 times this last week and a bit, and it's so interesting. Jane Goodall, who a lot of our students will be familiar with, is the first scientist to really name animals in a serious way. And when she did that, it was very shocking to a lot of people. People thought it was ridiculous and very unscientific. And increasingly, we see scientific groups and organizations, nonprofits, conservationists that do name animals in some fashion because it allows you to make that connection with them. Humans are we're drawn to names, we're drawn to those personalities. The best series for any of our students that are keen on this, Dynasties by the BBC, followed animal groups they were individuals, but featured that in a really salient way. And I absolutely encourage all our classes to check that out when they're done. Ms. Mercier, Calgary has another question for you, Mariah. Would you like to film dolphins again? Are you going back to dolphins anytime, all the time? Anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to film dolphins, but you know what I might film at some point soon? Maybe. We'll see. I'm, in touch with a couple possibilities. Sharks. I love sharks. Sharks rule. I love scuba diving, and I've seen a bunch of sharks underwater, not filming them, but just like being in the same ecosystem as them. And I know they have a scary reputation sometimes, but honestly, we are much more of a threat to sharks than they are to us. And they're really important to the marine ecosystem. And I would welcome any opportunity to get in the water with them too.
So I've got 2 follow-ups on this. One is that I'm so glad that you mentioned that they have this popular perception as being very dangerous. They're certainly the most exciting animal for a lot of our classrooms and teachers and students. And every year you have more coconuts that do people in than sharks. You have more vending machines that fall on people than you have shark attacks that are very serious on this planet. They're one of the most, you're likely to get in the water and have the shark be swimming across the horizon to get away from you more than you are to have it attack you. And scuba diving. So I wanted to harp in on this. How long have you been a scuba diver? What kind of scuba diver are you? I like to feature this for our classrooms.
Sure. Well, really quickly about the shark swimming away, I can attest to that because there's so many times that I've gotten in the water, I've been like, "Ooh, sharky," and I like swim towards it, and it's like, "Nope, nope, 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 nope." Like, just trying to chase after it, and it's always faster than me. Scuba diving. I've been a scuba diver for, oh my goodness, almost like over 15 years.
Wow.
I got certified the first time in Puerto Rico, but I had done some like, I call it discover dives, where you don't have to be like certified and go through the training, but you could try it out, kind of see if it's for you, make sure you could do all the things you need to do to be underwater. And then I did that a few times, and then I got certified in Puerto Rico, and I'm now a rescue diver under PADI, which is one of the certification organizations. And I got that in Fiji, which is honestly a really cool place to dive. And I was doing reef check surveys where you could like take data down for citizen science about the safety and the health of the reefs.
That is beyond cool. What a spectacular spot, I'm sure. I'm always like to encourage our classes. We've got some grade 3 students today, and literally as of grade 3, if you're 8 years old, a program called PADI Bubble Maker is like your first step to becoming a scuba diver. And I always like to push this for students, even if you're landlocked, if you're nowhere near an ocean or even big lake. Scuba dive training often happens in quarries, pools, and whatnot, and it opens up 70% of the world to you. So you can be like Mariah and go and explore with dolphins and explore citizen science projects in Fiji if you have this skill set. And so I can't encourage our classes enough. Look into this because it's a really, really special opportunity. It's like black magic to be able to breathe underwater. It's very, very, we all pinch ourselves that have that.
It's like, it's being in a whole different world. It's absolutely spectacular. It brings me so much joy to be underwater and to see and to be in that world and be in the marine world. Yeah, it's really special.
Cool. We had a class send in a question via email, and so they wanted to know, as sort of, we've seen a lot of different camera technologies lately, drone cameras, you talked about infrared. Do you train to get the skills to use these things? Is there anything that you'd like to try that you haven't used yet in one of your films? Or tell us about your camera stuff that you get to play with.
Camera gear. So I have to admit, I myself don't usually do the shooting, but I work with amazing cinematographers, and they have to kind of keep on top of what is the latest camera to use, what's changing, what's the best technology, but you also have to like kind of factor in where you're going. And so for instance, there's like a Red camera or a C300, which are kind of larger cameras. And when we're going way out in the jungle and we have to hike 20 miles and we don't have a lot of electricity options to charge our batteries, sometimes it's better to opt for a smaller camera that doesn't need as much power, where the batteries are a little less large. And so for Silent Forest, for instance, for any camera nerds out there, we used a camera called the A7S. I believe it was a Sony. And then we adapted it with the infrared lens for the shooting at nighttime. And we did also have a small drone and a small handheld gimbal, which is a way of stabilizing the camera. So if you're walking along, it's kind of, instead of bouncing up and down, it's more of a smooth motion, which really, there you go, gimbal. Yeah, it really helps make the shot less jarring and more pleasing to the eye.
If you've ever seen anything on television or movies, they probably have a gimbal involved, whereas handheld filmography, if you've got like a home video, they don't have gimbals. And that's why it looks like this, like we're shaking around and it's mass chaos. Yeah. Gimbals are sort of the essential gear for everybody. So I wanted to bring it up for folks. Thanks, Mariah. Miss Picassino's class, come on back in. If you got another one live for us, time flies and you're having fun, folks. We're going to take a few more questions here, but come on in Waterloo. Hey.
Okay, our next one.
Where do we find your films and like videos about all these animals?
Yes.
Nice. Okay, so the forest elephant film, it's called Silent Forests, and you can find it on Amazon for rental. It's also on Vimeo and Google Play. Then the Rescuing Armenia's Bears is online. It's up at Al Jazeera, actually. It's a series there called Close Up. And Wildcat will be out on Amazon December 30th. Now, that one does have some more adult themes, so you might want your parents to kind of like check and see if it's, appropriate, or if you might want to wait a couple years before watching. But it's a really, beautiful story. And let me see, what else did I talk about? Oh, Caught is on YouTube, and I can certainly provide Jesse with links to all these, so you can disseminate them after the fact if you want.
Well, and I want to do a plug for you as well, since you didn't, but you got a fantastic website and Instagram page. If people want to check out the work you're doing, see all the films that you've done and more, with links to all these associated things, check out Mariah's website, and that'll be your one-stop shop. On the film note, we've got a question from, again, on YouTube. How many films have you made? Is there do you have a running total, or are there too many to count at this point? Are you just everywhere?
No, films I've made, let me see. I've made 1, 2, 3 shorts and 4 features. Well, one was like medium length, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then I've also worked for most of my career in like TV and digital docs. So I'll get hired when somebody else has had an idea and they have like a green light, like they have the budget and they're ready to start filming. So I'll get hired to work on all kinds of stuff that way as well. So I mean, if I count that, oh my gosh, yeah, I would have to sit down and actually count them up. Probably 40 things, I don't know.
Long. That's really cool. So people come up with amazing ideas, and then they recognize that you're like the person to do this because you've been all over, you've had all the success, you've had the things featured, and they say, "Hey, Mariah, come join us in the Congo with this amazing thing." That's like the best phone call you can get in the world. We've got this cool expedition, and you're the person we want.
Exactly.
I'm curious, for our students' sake, I know we've got a lot of younger classes today, but for students that might be interested in the future in becoming a filmmaker, doing some of this for a living, is there a process that you followed? Is there advice that you recommend for students that want to get into filmography or photography in any serious way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did start in film school, which is kind of a more traditional route. And I actually only realized that I wanted to do documentaries right at the end of film school. So I was thinking I would be more in narrative films or big Hollywood films doing production design. But then I realized I loved learning so much, and I was sad to be leaving school, and I wanted to just keep learning. I'm like, how do I combine film and learning? And once I kind of thought about it that way, I was like, oh, documentaries, that makes sense. And so that was my path. And then it's really a business where it's like, it's a bunch of it's human connections, so it's like, who do you know and who do they know and what are they working on? So anytime I'm looking for work, I just reach out to people I've worked with before and kind of see what they're up to, and sometimes they'll reach out to me. And so that's how I usually end up finding my next job. But then every once in a while when I'm traveling, I'll meet a person or see a place where I'm really inspired, and then I'll kind of pursue that as my own project as well. But I think for those of you who might want to become filmmakers, there's no set path that you have to follow. You don't have to go to film school. I mean, I benefit a lot from it, but you absolutely don't have to. Like, my recommendation, pick up a camera, start filming. That's the best way to learn.
I can't imagine a better piece of advice than that to wrap up for our students. Mariah, this has been so much fun having you. Again, classes from all over the world. We have Chinese classes, Indian groups, Canadian groups, all registered for today for your program, and it's been such a pleasure having you on. You are welcome back anytime. The more stories you feature, the more we'd like to have you on. We can't wait for December 30th with our Amazon featurette coming up. And what we do to wrap up every broadcast, if you're joining us on YouTube, you can say a big thank you and farewell as well. Miss Picasino's class, you want to join me in saying thank you? We'll wrap up the broadcast there. Thanks, everybody. And have a wonderful day. Thanks, guys. Bye.